the most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Fouché Way radio show, live every Thursday at 1 o'clock p.m., sponsored by the nonprofit organization called Canine Hope for Improvement Program, where we hope to improve the quality of our dogs' lives by moving towards a no-kill society. The number here is 818-602-4929. You know, no matter how many times I go through the death of one of my dogs, it's never easy. The feelings that I go through, it's never easy. And I ask myself, when will it end? And you know, it's not the death that I have a problem with, but rather the days and the hours that lead up to that is very agonizing. It's the thought that keeps it real, because of course the physical is an illusion. You know, we see what we choose to see, and what people have told us to think about and to see, and we accept it, even if it doesn't make sense. But the natural death alone is hard enough to deal with, but to kill our dogs because of what we are making them think, that's tragic. You see, if you see yourself with your dog playing ball and all the physical things that others do, you will do it. But what does this mean to the dog, who lives in a different reality, a parallel reality to us, that makes them behave differently, and they move at a different rate of speed? And it's that speed that makes it difficult for us to understand them. And so we're always trying to slow them down, to control them to our speed and our time, as opposed to learning how to control them by understanding and flowing with the energy that the universe has given them. You see, we only feel connected and equal when we are controlling a game of ball with our dogs. I mean, we feel equal with that speed by the rate at which we throw that ball. And this makes us feel connected to them. But even that's not good enough, because we want them to bring the ball back to us in order to fulfill us, to feel complete. Not understanding that the ramifications of this so-called game can be horribly misunderstood and lead them down a path that some never get a chance to recover from before they're killed. The majority of us, we don't have working dogs anymore. We have pets, but we are still interacting with them as though they are applying for a predator's job of hunter, gatherer, survivor. We don't need to wake up those hormones that are dormant in the dog, because their food comes in a can. It comes in a bag. They don't have to become predators in order to eat and survive. And so that's something that we don't have to wake up. The shelter is full of dogs that have been toyed with in this way, and they are paying the price for it. Some will get a second chance, but many won't. You know, I've heard it said that we totally live in our minds. We are a product of what we think and do. And because I'm with my dogs 24/7, the thought of them is always present. And so that makes me happy to hear that. Their best interest is always in my mind. And so I have given many dogs a second chance because of what I believe and the way I think. Now you, as an outsider or a skeptic, can try to hide from what I'm saying, pretend that it doesn't matter, or you can try to understand it. And sometimes it's really not even about understanding. It's about not giving up. It's about faith. And the callers today, they all have faith. You know, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. But even to have it, you're going to be a little uncomfortable. But for the dogs, the needs of the many should outweigh the needs of the few. If we love them, let's help them. Sacrifice what you feel. The humans are the few. And so my first caller is a caller who is actually beginning to see the light, believing in something different. And his name is Gunnar, and he has a dog named Bugsy. Gunnar, are you there?
I am.
Well, how are you today, Gunnar?
Well, we're doing pretty good.
That's good. You know, you've got a very interesting story, a typical story, but it's interesting. And it's interesting because of your relationship with what I'm just talking about, training and working with dogs and interacting with them in a way that you have done with your family for many years. Can you tell us the story about Bugsy, where you got him from, and his story?
Sure. This is my girlfriend and my first dog together. Mm-hmm. And I've been raised with dogs since I was a kid. And this is the first one we actually had enough space to get our own dog. So we wanted to rescue a Boston Terrier from the Boston Buddies.
Okay.
And it's a no-kill rescue in Southern California. And they take in a lot of unwanted dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And they take them from all the different shelters and diagnose them with issues. And Bugsy actually had a skin issue. He was losing hair on some places, so he has like a monster paw, and he looks kind of like a junkyard dog. And no one wanted to adopt him.
Right.
Because they all thought he had mange.
Yeah.
So the Boston Buddies, one of the nice things they did, they took him, paid for all his medical costs, took him to diagnose it with one of the top pet dermatologists,
mm-hmm.
and realized that he just didn't have enough blood flow to grow his hair. So they put him on pills, and his hair's growing back. And he's such a sweet has a sweet disposition.
Yes, he does.
Disposition. And my only issue was because of this mental condition. He was pretty much in solitary confinement, and his whole life has been in shelters. He's about 3 years old,
mm-hmm.
and they've had him for almost a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always been essentially in a shelter and not in a pack because he didn't do well with other dogs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's been great with people, but when I take him on walks, he's lunging at other dogs. And I've read a couple dog books. We've only had him since the 9th of May.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been avidly reading all the different approaches to dogs, but needless to say that other dog owners are crossing the street to stay away from us when we walk by.
Sure. Yeah, that's pretty normal if he's lunging and what have you. And it's a mindset that people learn to obey and dogs learn to respond to, And this is what I'm mm-hmm. trying to change here on this show, is how we look at things and how we're contributing to the problem. Bugsy's a really sweet dog, but in evaluating him, we found that he had a learned behavior. And he learned this behavior from the solitary confinement and because of fear that people have when dogs begin to react, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, in that different speed, that different reality that nature tells them to respond to. And so what we try to do is hold them back to our speed, our reality, and then this is confusing to the dog, and so they lunge. And that's how you ended up coming to me, right?
Yeah.
But did you have any?
Yeah.
Did you see anyone before me though?
I did. Yeah, I went to a dog trainer in the neighborhood, mm-hmm. and I thought because of Bugsy has been away from dogs, I wanted to be kind of socialized with other dogs in kind of a supervised environment.
Mm-hmm.
So we can go on. There's a supervised hike in Griffith Park that we go on to. And, whoever shows up can bring their dog and ask questions. And, as soon as he got there, he jumped up on this shepherd and tried to get him in the neck. Or like a nip, like a discipline nip, not
mm-hmm.
a big attack.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the hour hike, I thought, you read all the books is that you should have them smell each other when they're marking spots, have them walk single file, so then they're lead and get comfortable with the dogs. And at the end of it, I thought he was going to be doing good because he got associated with the dogs, but he went behind the German Shepherd and as if to smell him, and then bit him instead, which got a very angry shepherd barking in his face, which is kind of what he needed to put in his place. But it didn't really help.
Yeah, this is typical. I've seen people come to me, they talk about reading the books and things like that. I want to say something to people that are listening. These books that I have found or read from the perspective of making a person feel that they have control over a behavior that is natural by getting them to sit, stay, come, heel, down, things like that. Of course, the things that we're telling them to do is trying to slow them up, trying to reduce that speed. And it's not actually flowing with the energy that I'm talking about that we have to do in order to actually control them. The best way to control a dog or a person, let's say, is to understand why they're doing what they're doing. And if we understand it, then there are many ways that we can stop it. And so that's what's happening there. We think that, they should be able to spend some time going on a hike and then they're going to be fine. But it's still under our control. We're not allowing them to experience things in a way that causes them to make a decision to do the thing that we really want them to do. We have not been taught how to do that. We have been taught how to have a false sense of security, to make the dog do something to prevent them from doing something else, when really we just have a problem with socialization, and that's all we need to learn how to do. But the books don't talk about that. They actually produce fear within us. And I've seen many people try to introduce their dog to other dogs, but it's basically out of fear. And they're waiting for the dog to show them that it's going to be okay to introduce, as opposed to creating an environment where a dog can calm himself down. This psychology has never really been explored. And so that's why we have problems like what you were dealing with. And so how did you end up finding that it didn't work with the trainer that led you to me?
Well, we didn't really see any change in Bugsy after that, and it was just cementing his behavior deeper and deeper. And I was waiting for my girlfriend. We're taking him for this evening walk, and it was a little colder than she expected, so she went in to grab her jacket. I was waiting on the curb, waiting for her to come out, and this other dog approached. He's like a puppy beagle, and I told the owner, I said, he's a newly rescued, little unpredictable. You should give him some space. And the other guy did not take my advice. Heed my warning. He walked by him. He's like, "Oh, my dog's super nice." And then my dog lunged at him, bit the beagle in the cheek, and bit me when I was trying to pull him off. Which, if anyone's listening, if someone gives you a warning that their dog's a little unpredictable, they're not really concerned with your dog. They're concerned with their own dog.
Thank you for making that clear. Happens all the time, my friend.
Yeah. So, and I've heard that he, through his history, I heard he was staying with a couple other dogs with the Boston Buddies. And I reached out to the Boston Buddies and said, well, it says that he's good with dogs, and he's stayed with a couple dogs, and he had, little pals. But I haven't yet to see the behavior that would indicate to me how that would happen. So it's something I'm missing. And they put me in touch with you.
All right. Well, when you came, dogs come in for the evaluation, and of course, I'm looking at them, and I'm also evaluating the person, because we have to find out. I'm always looking to see if this is a learned behavior or if it's a genetic behavior. And when we begin to talk, I see that you have a history with dogs, your family. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. And that history, like most people, is based on training, positive reinforcement, clickers, and all sorts of things. And when I hear about a problem like your dog, and I know you've been trying to train him to help him to get away from this situation, when I hear about this, what it tells me is that you don't have a training problem. You have a problem because of training. We're trying to slow the dog down to do it our way rather than trying to understand why he chooses to do it this way, the way that we don't like. And that's when I asked you to leave him, to pick him up later. Mm-hmm. And how did you feel when you came back?
Well, after watching the videos,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was surprised. He was fully integrated with dogs, all sizes, from the biggest ones, big shepherds, all mm-hmm. the way down to little toy dogs.
Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting with your dog. And I showed some video of his behavior that I consider to be a learned behavior. This is how I evaluate dogs. And what I did was I put him outside with other dogs, and he was fine. And then I created like a disturbance at the gate where I'm going to release other dogs. And he ran over to the gate. And I put that video up on my Facebook page. And he was stalking the gate, ready to explode on the first dog that came out. Okay? Now, that's a learned behavior. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's aggressive to dogs, but he has learned how to be this way because he's totally integrated with a bunch of dogs, but he's concerned with the dog that's coming out of the gate because the gate has created the stress which led to his aggression. Could you see that?
Right. He didn't know what he was fine with the dogs on one side, but he wanted to make sure that he had the dominance on the dogs on the other side because he didn't know if they're friend or foe. Right?
Well, and not just that. It's because that's what he's been taught by us without us even knowing that we were teaching him because of separation.
Mm.
When we separate our dogs with barriers, we create stress. That stress leads to aggression. So even though he was out with dogs, the fact that there were dogs behind the fence and he was on the other side, the scenario plays out again in his head. And so as soon as I open the gate, you'll see me kind of tease the gate a bit, and he stalks down a little tighter, and finally when I open, he went right after the little dog. And then after the dog was out, he's fine. Because now we're all together as a pack. That's that packness trying to correct itself. The socialness trying to correct itself. But because of humans, we've interfered with that with the separation, the barriers. The barriers that we use physically end up becoming mental barriers. And the dog believes it. And that's what we were experiencing with your dog. And so in order to help this dog, I ask people to do certain things. And what I'm asking you to do are things that are going to change your relationship with your dog. And it has to change it in a way that it's so close to the way nature would have it done that humans can become uncomfortable with being assertive with their dogs because the whole world talks about positive reinforcement with clickers and training, and we believe that the opposite of positive reinforcement is negative reinforcement. And I say, no, that's not true. Positive reinforcement is something that humans made up. Negative reinforcement is something that humans made up. The thing is that dogs need to experience their environment in a way that teaches them what is danger so that they can stay away from it. They have to see their environment as a predator. Our dogs see the environment as prey, and that's why they're always lunging and going after things. But dogs that live in the street see the environment as a predator, and so they stay away from things. Okay? So your dog, I can tell, had this learned behavior. But it also had learned that humans were weak. Not that it was being aggressive to you, but it didn't have to listen to you. You weren't strong enough. I mentioned this in my last show, to replace the hormone that was necessary to achieve what it is that you wanted, which was to be able to walk past other dogs because you hadn't established the hierarchy relationship with your dog before you even walked past another dog. Can you see that?
Right. Well,
yeah.
I do, because I was using the positive reinforcement, the clicker and the treats, and in my house, I got him not even just using the hand motions. I got him to sit, I got him to lay down. You can shake his little monster paw because he has no hair on it, and he was great inside. And as soon as I took him outside, he didn't listen to me anymore. He was focused. Boston's are very headstrong, and he had just tunnel vision looking ahead, and he wouldn't come to me, he wouldn't sit, he wouldn't do anything outside. And I guess dogs, according to the book, says dogs don't make generalizations, and you're supposed to train your dog to sit inside, train your dog to sit by the door, train your dog to sit outside at the coffee shop, but as soon as the distraction level got too much, he was just focused on one thing. And even when I'm trying to pull him past the other dogs, I'm like lifting him up by his harness, and his little feet are scampering in a different direction. Tell him to leave it.
Yeah, leave it. Leave something that I'm genetically hardwired to. This world that I feel something close to, that I can't connect with the way nature intended for me to process information. That's what we're keeping him from. That's why we can't stop him. We cannot calm our dogs down by the way we've been taught, but we can create an environment where the dog can calm himself. And this is what I mean by setting him up to fail. We have to be able to produce what we want, and so that the dog could not be successful, because so far Bugsy has been successful in what he's doing. It's just that you won't let him get to it. You're pulling him away. And so that frustration continues. The saga continues,
right.
But
then a lot of times they use, they say you want to prevent negative behavior by avoiding the behavior in the first place. So don't give them the opportunity today. If you don't want your dog to jump, have him sit, because you can't have him jump in a sitting position. If you don't want your dog to hurt other dogs, if you see them cross the street, so he doesn't have you avoid the situation that promotes the negative behavior.
Wow, yeah. So you've been I know you've been reading some books then, and so look, in those books they tell you the kind of toys not to give your dog, right?
Yeah.
Well, what kind of toys are they telling you?
Well, those toys that you shouldn't give toys that look like human food, little hamburgers, chicken legs, and all sorts of things that you don't want them to get into in the first place, because they have a hard time distinguishing from their toy to a real object.
Okay, and so now why shouldn't we give dogs toys that look like stuffed animals?
Well, that's the thing, and that's what I learned in this in the afternoon review, is that a lot of dogs he's going after are little small squeaky dogs, like toy breeds, and they look very similar to the toys that are supposed to get him to build his confidence, the squeaky tug-of-war toys, and he's ripping off the nose of.
Exactly. And what does he do when he sees a dog? Where does he go for the face, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, look, we think that they should be intelligent enough to know the difference between a stuffed animal and a real live animal. And what they do with this animal that looks real should not have a bearing on what they would do to an animal that is real. I mean, there's such a thing, it's called intelligent stupidity. And I think we're practicing a lot of it, And we're not going to be able to help our dogs if we can't make this connection. And, I got you on the line. I actually want to bring in Holly. Holly with her dog Bentley. Holly, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I want to bring you in with Gunner because, you're a person that adopted a dog also. And cute little dog. If you go to my Facebook, you see a picture of both of Bentley and Bugsy there. And this dog was beginning to control your life through aggression. Can you tell our listeners about it?
Sure. So, first of all, I want to thank you, Brandon, for having me on today. I'm just so appreciative because we had a beautiful dog that we rescued, and we had her for 10 years, and we had to put her down in January. She had declining health, and she let us know when it was time, and it was very sad, and my 2 teenage daughters were devastated, really, and so they wanted to get another dog right away, and I was really reluctant, but, they got their way, and we did a lot of research. We knew we wanted to rescue. We wanted a rescue, and we came across a great organization called Dogs Without Borders, and they rescue dogs from high-kill shelters. And we went down to Tellwaggers in Hollywood. It's a really great little pet shop there, and there was about 40 dogs there, all kinds of different shapes and sizes. And Bentley came right up to us, and he was so happy, and he little 10-pound white terrier mix cutie pie. I mean, so cute. Showed zero aggression towards dogs or people that day.
Yes.
And it was not even a question. We took him home that day. And I of course, I first realized quickly that he wasn't housebroken. So I was, doing a lot of reading and on how to housebreak a dog properly. And so I decided crate training was going to be a fact. That was something that I was interested in doing. And so I proceeded to do that. It was supposed to only take 10 to 14 days. But that didn't, and that just was nothing. That was just the very beginning of my problems. Within a couple, 3 weeks of him getting very comfortable with us, he started to show signs of aggression with people who would come to the door, friends, family members who didn't live there, all the time. First it was just barking, and then he would lunge at them and try to bite them. And several times, my cousin had to kick him off his leg because he was seriously going to clamp down on him and cause some damage if he could. But, and so I scooped him up and put him in his crate or put him outside or put him upstairs in a bedroom and isolated him. Because, of course, I don't want my family or my friends to get hurt. And it was just, I was struggling with it. And then one afternoon, girls left the door open. He ran across the street and started barking and lunging at this little girl who lived across the street. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is a very serious thing.
Yes.
And I was doing all kinds of research, like Gunner on the, reading every book that I could, and I Googled training well, actually, let me tell you what happened. 3 weeks ago, a friend and I came home, and the dog was in the house, and I called ahead, and I told my daughter to put him outside because I knew she was coming in. And so we were visiting, and it was cold, so I wanted to take him upstairs. And in the time I took to go outside to upstairs, he got out, and he ran up to my friend, lunged at her knee, and just got her really good. And she ended up having to go to the hospital. And she had a really bad dog bite. She's on antibiotics. She's a very good friend, and she's not going to sue me. But the point is that that was it. I mean, I dedicated the next 48 hours just pouring through websites and trainers and what I can do. And I ran across your, it wasn't until I Googled dog aggression, by the way. You don't come up under dog trainers.
Oh,
but dog aggression, you're within the first hit. So, and I read your website, and I heard all the success stories, and I reached out to you and a couple times. And finally, I'm very impatient, so, it didn't get back to me in 3 or 4 days, so I start calling you, and you picked up, and that's when we decided to bring Bentley in for an evaluation because something had to be done. And, my children had already bonded with them, and I'm heartbroken because they lost their other dog, and now they've bonded with this one, and we're confused, and we're struggling with what to do. And I knew if I gave him back, it would just be another cycle of another family and having the same problems, and or worse yet, maybe it would put him down. And several of my family members had said, "Oh, they bite somebody, then you need to put them down." And I I mean, I got into a fight with one of my friends over it. I wasn't going to do that. So
Wow. That's good.
that's when I stumbled upon you, and it's
I want to ask
just,
you something. Because this thing has to be like magic, really. Libra and I tease sometimes. We say, yeah, we're going to hand out some miracles today, but I mean, and we're just playing around. But let me ask you, when you went to listen on the website or to read what people have said, did you believe what you read?
Of course I did. These were real people. They were real dogs. Your website has an authentic feel to it, and these success stories were so dramatic. I thought I have to find out about this, because if it doesn't work, oh well. But if it does, this is the solution to all my problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I had read a success story similar to a lady who had a dog like Bentley, who is people aggressive, and he's dog aggressive, but more people than anything, who comes into his home. So I definitely thought it was.
All right, well that's good.
I had to check it out.
Yeah,
And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, you went someplace else too.
I was just gonna throw in. I was a little skeptical after
Uh-huh.
seeing all the interviews and stuff.
Yeah, and I could tell when I met you, you're that kind of meticulous person, and that's good. I mean, the key here is we got to be able to show that the problem that we're having, that's leading us to say we want no kill in the first place, we got to be able to show that the problem isn't as bad as we think it is, that it can be fixed, and it can be fixed as quickly as you're ready to get on board.
Mm-hmm.
That's my message here. As fast as you're ready to go, we can go. But at the same time, the things that I ask you to do, you must do them. And if you have any reservations, you've got to call me and say, hey, look, can you explain this to me again? Because I know the way the human brain works is that if we put off with something, we're going to stop doing it. And that's why when you come back to me and I ask you, look, what is your wish list? I'm really working on that wish list. And I'm seeing if this dog can do this. If he's genetically compromised where he can't, then we go one way. If this is a learned behavior, we're going to go the other way. And so I'm going to ask you, just as I asked Gunnar, Holly, how did you feel when you came back and you saw your dog?
So I dropped him. I just want to tell the listeners, it was Tuesday morning. I dropped Bentley off this past Tuesday. And I worked all day, and I came back later in the afternoon, and we sat down and we spoke for a good hour and a half or so before bringing Bentley out, and we covered some exercises, and you explained to me how life is through, the eyes of my dog. And when you brought him out, it was a profoundly different dog. Within 30 minutes, I had the tools necessary to lead my dog and to be and for him to listen to me. I don't remember if I told you, I would never have thought to bring him to Petco or any place out in public. But I remember that evening I went there because I had to get some things, and I felt confident. He was so calm on the way home, so happy, so non-stressed out. Because he's a very high-energy dog, and he jumps up on me all the time. You let him in, hasn't seen you in 10 minutes, he's got to jump up on you. He doesn't do that anymore. He's calm. He calms himself, Brandon. That's the thing. He calms himself, just like you said. And I have to tell I'm very proud of my girls, too, because everything you told me, I had to relay to them. Because, again, if I've changed my behavior and they haven't, then it's going to be a little ambiguous for the dog, I think. And so I'm really proud of them because they've followed through too. And we have last night he sleeps on my bed, and last night he's just a sweetheart. He's so nice to be around. He's so calm. He's such a good boy. Yeah. Anyways, I took him to the Petco. He didn't growl or bark at anybody once, or another dog. Super happy, following along behind me, not jumping, not hyper. And, he's a year and a half. So, he's a young dog, so.
Yeah.
But he's a sweetheart.
Would
really, changed in a day, half a day.
Now,
it changed our family completely.
I want to say something to you. I want to say something to you, Holly, and to you, Gunnar, and I'm going to bring Nancy in from the Palm Springs Animal Shelter who volunteers there. Nancy, are you there?
Hey, Brandon.
How you doing,
Yeah.
Nancy? You know, just
Good.
talking to Holly and Gunnar here about the things that I've asked them to do and some things that I've also asked them not to do, I want to tell you guys a story of what happened to a dog that was picked up from me today that belongs to a husband and a wife. The husband came in to pick the dog up. The wife came in to pick the dog up, and she was telling Leroy that she thinks she's going to have to give up their dog, find a new home for him. And he said, why? And he said, well, he nipped at the baby. Okay? And I said, he came back and told me, I said, nipped at the baby? He says, yes. And she says, well, look, I'm going to tell you something, and you can tell Brandon. Even if my husband comes in here today and Brandon asks him questions, he will lie straight to Brandon's face. He will lie to him and will not tell him the truth. And he's playing tug of war with the dog. He's still roughhousing with the dog. In fact, the dog got into a fight over a ball in his yard. And now he's walking with the hair raised up on his back when they take the walk again. Okay? And she says for the first time, he snapped at the baby. And the husband says he loves his dog. And I've done shows. Do you really love your dog? Do you love them enough to give up your selfishness to save their life? And she said that he would lie right in front of my face. And I said, are you kidding me? She says, yes. And for some reason, you can't make the connection of playing ball and roughhousing that is telling the dog to challenge his leader. In the jungle, that is a death sentence for one of the pack members to challenge the leader. We can't look at dogs as toys, that things don't matter to them. We can't say that, I'm going to sacrifice, what I need to do for my dog to satisfy myself and then end up having to give the dog up. That dog is going to be destroyed. We have an obligation with this knowledge that I'm trying to give out, And if it's working for you, if it worked day one, now I helped this dog, and they called me back like I was the best thing since ice cream after we had worked with this dog. So why would you go back to that old way just to satisfy yourself? We're trying to change things. We want to save lives. And I brought you in, Nancy, because you're very instrumental at the Palm Springs shelter. You're really trying to make things happen there, and the other volunteers there and the board there are really on board with what's happening, and we're going to be doing some things. And I'm saying to you also, because we've had a case like this where a person adopted a dog. Her name is the Black Pit. What's her name?
That's Rain.
Rain.
It was Rain.
Right.
Yeah.
Adopted from a gentleman that called you and said that he was having a few problems, right?
Yeah, he did.
I talked to him, and we found out that he's doing just like hundreds of thousands of other people, playing tug of war and throwing the ball, and his dog started to act up. And it wasn't that he couldn't stop doing it. He didn't know that he should. And because he didn't know that he should, the time that he would have had to make this a better dog was interfered with him thinking that he may have to give the dog back. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We have to educate people to understand that it's so important. There's an old saying, it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a pack to raise a dog. And that means we're going to have to be able to get our dogs together. But how can we do this if we don't understand that the most important thing with working with dogs is socialization? It's advanced socialization, not advanced training. Doesn't matter whether a dog can sit, stay, heel, calm, down, place, leave it. None of that matters. What matters is socialization. Being able to socialize your dogs with people walking through your door, dogs walking down the street, dogs in the dog park, things like that. But we've never been taught that. That's what this program is about. That's what we want to do with the Palm Springs shelter. We want to start these play groups. I want to show how this is done, why it's done. We want to talk about the reality that dogs live in, that parallel world that they live in that we're trying to control when we need to try to understand it. If you can understand the way why dogs do what they do, then it's going to be easy to control. If you say that you only want to control and it's not important to understand, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a cut that needs stitches. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I was asking Gunnar, if you were walking down the street and someone else is walking down the other side of the street, right now you cross the street, right?
Right.
Because people are not understanding. When they see a dog lunging, they point the finger, they say that's a bad dog, and you need to get rid of that dog, and you need to put that dog to sleep, and all these negative things. But if that person walking in your same direction knew what you knew today, and you both could converse, you would now use each other to help each other's dogs, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, if you saw me walking down the street and I said, wow, that's Gunnar, you're not going to cross the street, are you? No.
No, I would not.
You're going to walk past me. We're going to get through this. We're going to make it happen. That's what we're asking. When we talk about the Fouché way, we're talking about getting people together with other people and their dogs with other dogs. This is about socialization. This is what's going to help the shelters. We cannot continue to think in the way that we've been thinking. And that's why I wanted to have you on, Nancy, because I want you to talk about what we're trying to do in that shelter.
You know, Brandon, it's been certainly months in discussions and, you know, talking about getting dogs together and having these play groups. And, you know, I had done that with Rain because Rain had been at the shelter about a year, and Alexa, who was adopted, who had been there about 14 months.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, getting them together, because as you know, in shelters, everybody's separated.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the separation and the learned behaviors from being separated and the barrier aggression, and there's a whole host of things going on that's very unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
Getting those dogs together to play kept their sanity and made them normal and adoptable.
Yes.
And what was great about seeing these girls go is that, you know, you look in the kennel and you see this really crazy dog. Allowing her to play with another dog made her so normal and easy. And, you know, both of them went into homes. In fact, Alexa went into a home with the Boston Terrier.
Mm.
And Rain went in with another bully.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, I said no toys, no fetching. And, you know, Louise did that. And so there was a bit of an issue, which fortunately you helped and rectified that very quickly. And it is funny because you always say, oh, my gosh, it's just like magic. And I was laughing when you say that because, you know, in our past, I've known you for, 14, 13 years. I've done all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they didn't end up well. It wasn't working for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you know, it was, as you know, Brandon. You know, in having gone through this experience, I think it's the most important thing to get the dogs socialized and together. You see that the wards, they did do a bit of a play group with the ward, and you just see the dogs come in and they're just calm and peaceful, and they're not barking or biting the cages, or it just makes, just that little bit makes a huge difference.
The
And it makes
leadership.
them adaptable.
Yeah, the
Pardon?
leadership. This is the leadership. Holly was just saying it. Her dog looks calm, looks happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the first thing she
no,
said
it
to
is.
me.
Go ahead.
Right, Holly?
Yes, I mean, it's a different dog,
Yeah.
Brandon.
And
Yeah.
and you only had to be a little uncomfortable for just a little while. Same with Gunner, because Gunner and I, we talked about, discipline, domination, and we're going to get more into that. But we have to look at this from the concept of nature, not humans. And people need to stop pointing their finger at dogs that lunge and bark and show aggression, and stop pointing their finger at people that are trying to be assertive with their dog to control that behavior. Because if they don't control it, then the next step is death. And if we say that we love our dogs, if this gentleman that his wife picked this dog up from my place says he loves his dog, if we say that we love an individual, will we give them what they need? Or are we only interested in what we want from them? That will determine how long that relationship is going to last. And being with dogs, and me working with dogs, I know that the relationship is the key. My dogs understand me because I understand them. We have the superior mind. It's up to us to get the knowledge to help them. Even though they are superheroes, they need us because we have them living in our reality, our world, that is foreign and different to them. So don't keep taking them back to a primitive time of chasing, killing, jumping, running, gnawing, all of that, and then say we want you to be calm in our world. Don't try to connect to them like that and then say I want to go to Starbucks and sit down and be calm. Don't create an artificial world for them. If what you want is a calm dog, then let the predatory stuff go. They don't need it. It's not important. The end result is a dog that you can take anywhere with you. Socialization is the key. It is the thing that's going to give the dog the quality of life that it needs. And if we're not able to do it, then we're no better than the institutions that are going to put these dogs to sleep because they won't listen, because humans, the ones who are actually adopting the dogs, have a deaf ear too. Even the one who has the dog that they say that they love. We have to make a change if we're going to be successful. And what I would love to do at the shelter there in Palm Springs is to do a seminar for those people who are thinking about adopting a dog, who are thinking about giving up a dog, who don't even know what they want to do, but they're interested in what's happening around the world of dogs. Come to this seminar and ask your questions. There are none that are too small to ask. And I tell people that come to me, call me every day, leave a message or something, because something in your message may say to me, I need to call you back right away because you said something that's a little off. And when we're dealing with dogs, we have to be right on it. We don't have time because this is not training. Training is 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. The stuff I'm talking about is instant. So if you're not getting the instant results, then either you're trying to train or you're not totally understanding what I'm saying. And it's just that simple to achieve no kill. It's just
right,
that simple.
Brandon, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So you talked about a lot of the predatory games that institutionally I've always known to play ball with Bugsy or all my dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other games? Because you said that plans on making their use of their mouth all the time to discover the world with their mouth.
Yeah.
And you're talking about how you want dogs naturally explore the world with their nose.
Right. Okay.
Are there some games to help encourage that behavior?
Oh, absolutely.
And have
Absolutely. I mean, I can't wait to get. All we've really been talking about is not playing with toys and throwing balls and things like that. That's a very mediocre level. There are many other things that we're going to be going as the show goes on. But yes, I want to answer that. The dog comes into this world with his nose first. Can't see, can't hear. Doesn't even open its mouth really. And that nose is so important. That's the first thing that comes into the world, and then that's the second thing that we use. I mean, the last thing that we use with our dogs, except for when we're cooking. Okay? So we should play games that are educational. You can teach your dog to find your keys. Play a game of hiding treats. If you want to give your dog treats, hide them around the house, and each place you have the treat, go and say, search, search, search. And if you hide 3 treats, you're going to say search 3 times. The dog finds them. He knows that 3 times means there's only 3 treats. Then you take that and you can put it in a pouch. You remember those pouches that you had zippers you can put your keys in? Put the treat in that and then say search. He'll go, smell the treat inside, grab the pouch, and then you open it up, give it to him, and praise him and reward him. Then you're able to go to the park, tell him search. He'll be searching for the food, but he'll smell your handprint on your product, whatever that is, and bring it to you. Now you've opened up the dog's mind the way nature says without him having to kill something or chase something. He has to think. This is what prey animals do. They're always thinking. Those are the kind of mind games that I'm talking about. Okay? Oh, my gosh, the time is rolling. Here we are again. Look, I want to thank Holly. I want to thank Gunnar. I want to thank Nancy for coming on and sharing their experiences, and Nancy talking about the shelter and the things that we want to do with that. And I want to see you here again next Thursday, 1 o'clock, for some more interesting topics that we're going to be talking about. And once again, thank you for tuning in to the Fouché Way radio show. See you
Thanks,
again.
Brandon.
You're very welcome. Bye, Holly.
Thanks,
Bye, Gunnar.
Brandon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.